As we head into the Thanksgiving weekend, we want to take some special time to reflect on what we have to be thankful for this year. And while some of the battles in Washington and abroad have most certainly been exceedingly fierce and disturbing on many fronts, we should never lose sight of all the good that we've seen. We should never lose sight of the good that God is in and of himself. And joining me now to reflect on some of these good things is Congressman Keith Self. He serves on a number of House committees, including the Foreign Affairs Committee, where he chairs the Subcommittee on Europe. He also served our country for 25 years in the Army before retiring with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He represents the 3rd Congressional District of the great state of Texas. Congressman Self, welcome back to Washington Watch, and happy Thanksgiving Eve to you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, Jody. It's great to be with you.
Well, thank you so much. All right, let's start off with the news this week of some of the development in the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. What's your take on all the talks that we've been hearing about this most recent proposal as it's emerged?
Well, I think the 28-point plan was simply hyperbole to get people involved. I'm very grateful that Europe has now decided to participate in this process because they've been an obstacle to everything President Trump has wanted to do in the past. So now we're down to 19 points, the way I understand it, and some of the most egregious points out of the 28-point plan have been done away with. The NATO ban on Ukraine, limiting their armed forces, giving up land. So now it's up to Putin, I believe. Zelensky has said, I will accept it with some modifications, but Putin is the one that I think holds the key here because he is the aggressor. He is the one that is actually making small gains now. So I think we're up to Putin, but I'm delighted that Europe has involved themselves now. They've engaged. So I look forward to the process continuing to move forward.
Yeah, I do too, and it's very interesting. I keep waiting to hear about the 20,000 plus children, Ukrainian children, that were kidnapped in all of this, and how and when will they be returned to their Ukrainian families? Certainly that at some point is going to come out, but we'll certainly be watching. Let me ask you about this. Also this week, President Trump had a phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and he's made an agreement to visit Beijing in April. What's your overall assessment of how President Trump and his administration has been handling China?
Well, first of all, let's go to the farmers, because the farmers needed that agreement on soybeans and lumber and a couple of other things. They needed that. I think the ships are now moving toward China with soybeans. Listen, Xi, we tend to think of them like we did during the Soviets during the Cold War. They're 10 feet tall. They're not. Their economy has trouble of its own. So Xi needs to be agreeing with President Trump on a lot of these things. So again, I hope that President Trump goes in with a hard negotiating position to make sure that our equities are met in any agreement that he makes with China, and I think they will, because Xi needs some agreements because, frankly, the circle is tightening in the Pacific as our allies step forward to participate with us in containing China. So I applaud the efforts. President Trump is willing to go anywhere, talk to anybody, to make a deal and to bring peace. And so I'm very encouraged by this. Let's just keep our eyes wide open as we do it.
Yeah, it really has been remarkable, the work that President Trump and his administration have been able to do internationally, for sure. And of course, one of the things we actually had a clip coming into this that we're extremely grateful for is the return of all the living hostages who had been held by Hamas. That was not an easy accomplishment for this administration either, was it?
Well, that entire peace plan is not. When you talk about getting those hostages out when Hamas had absolutely no benefit to giving them up, that was their leverage. And yet enough pressure was put on them, not only by the U.S., but by some of the nations that they consider their allies, So they did give up the hostages. That was a tremendous event that, frankly, I thought we may never see. So yeah, that was 700 days. 700 days after that, plus after that horrific attack, we see the last of the hostages come home. It was a tremendous victory for Israel.
It really was. And just the victory this past couple of years for Israel in the midst of a multi-front war, really, they have done the entire world a great favor in many of the incredible feats that they have accomplished. Let me ask you this, too. Another thing I think to be extremely grateful for, speaking of war, right here in our own nation, the turnaround that we've seen in the midst of military recruitment. I mean, just a couple of years ago, we were so far behind all the recruiting goals, and now a dramatic shift in that where all the Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, all of them have reached or surpassed their recruiting goals. What's your take on that?
Well, frankly, they now see something worth joining for, worth volunteering for, worth putting their lives on the line for. President Trump has reestablished the credibility of the United States around the world. The world now views our military as a deterrent force. It needs to be strong. And young men and young women around the nation are agreeing. They're saying, that's something I want to participate in. That's something larger than myself. That is something worth my sacrifice. And we're seeing the results with the recruiting numbers that you just talked about. But it's all about the viability of our military around the world to actually do their job, as opposed to being worried about pronouns.
Absolutely. Well, bringing it home a little bit even closer to Washington, D.C., a huge battle, but a huge win was the One Big Beautiful Bill. That really was a big deal, wasn't it?
Jody, I can't tell you. That was amazing that we got that done. I will tell you, a lot of the things don't kick in for another month and a half, just over a month till 1 January. But once they do, I believe that we are in a position to see the benefits just roll out because there are so many positives in that bill that once they begin to take hold, once people begin to get a little more momentum, their psyche goes up. I think you're going to see a tremendous change come from the One Big Beautiful Bill. But understand, it's still coming in many ways. It's not here yet. And we see that, and people feel that it's coming.
Absolutely. Well, we're all looking forward to it. I know we've talked about a lot of things. Let me just bring this a little bit more personally home. From you and your family, what are you personally thankful for as we enter into this Thanksgiving week?
Well, I will tell you, my wife and I are very grateful that we have an opportunity to do what we do in Congress. Because, look, we've got a lot of issues in Congress. We hear about them every day from mainstream media. But this nation is still so blessed by God. We need to be worthy of that blessing. We need to be worthy of God's protection over this nation. So we have another year, Jody. We have another year to participate in the greatest constitutional republic the country has ever known. And to me, that is a blessing that is unsurpassed. It is just wonderful to be where we are today, to be able to go to Congress and defend the values that I served for 25 years around the world, to defend on the battlefield and in foreign nations. I get to do in Congress. To me, that is stupendous.
Well, it is an enormous honor to be able to walk the halls of Congress as a representative of your district and to represent them and represent this country, and you do it exceedingly well, and we are deeply grateful for you. Thank you, Congressman Keith Self. Wishing you and your family a happy, wonderful, and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining us today on Washington Watch.
Thank you, Jody.